to Distorted Opinions. I'm Kayla, and as always, I'm with Matt and Ted, and we're pretty excited about this episode because not only do we have our first Gear Talk guest, but we have our first international guest joining us. We're joined by Jack Thompson, owner and CEO of Jaketto Picks in Australia. Jack, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you with us today.
Welcome, Jack.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. It took a little bit of planning, but I'm glad we were able to get you here. And we were talking before we got started with the show that there's been some pretty nasty weather where Jack is at. And for a while there, we weren't sure whether or not we were going to be able to do this because he had no power this morning. So we're really glad that it worked out to do this today. And we're excited to hear a bit more about your picks, which... I know.
If anyone's listened to our show, Kayla has the craziest obsession with guitar picks, and it's been going on for about 2-3 months. Like, it's really gone off the rails. We've almost staged an intervention. Like, it's really time to rein it in. But in the massive interest of guitar picks, we've made acquaintances with Jack, who is obviously the manufacturer owner of Jaketto Picks, and so definitely it all makes sense that we have another follow-up gear talk about guitar picks, but this time we're going right to the source.
Yes, we are.
Jack, your guitar picks are beautiful. Definitely each one's quite a piece of art, and no wonder they sell out so quickly every day that you wind up posting them. So definitely been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be pretty in depth, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, Ted pretty much nailed it. If anybody in our audience remembers our Gear Talk on picks, I talked just briefly about the fact that I had bought a few picks from Jaketto, and at that point, I didn't yet have any.
That was a few. Like that, 3, 4.
It was two. It was two at that point.
Oh, two.
It was two at that point. But I didn't have them. Yeah. At that point. Now I've got 6, which are here on my amp behind me, along with a few others. And
how many are in shipment?
We've got. Well, not all of them are mine, though.
I know. I'm kidding. 2 of them are mine.
4 of them are you guys. So yes, we have another dozen that are on the way. So,
which means all those people on social media that may hear this are probably gonna go, those damn people are the ones.
I couldn't get the pics. Those are the ones.
Gotcha. Get over.
No, it's quite all right. We have numerous people every day that are after them. So I'm sure no one's going to be angry at you guys.
That we know of.
Yeah, that we know of. That's right.
I mean, for what it's worth, I've reeled it in a bit over the last few weeks and given other people an opportunity to try and get their hands on some. So, but we do have quite a few on the way. And I'm really happy to say that the 6 that I've gotten so far, I've been playing for the last few weeks, and I just love these picks. So I'm really excited that we're talking to Jack today. We're going to hear a bit more about the picks because Jack and I started talking through Instagram around that pick gear talk, and we talked quite a bit about the differences between the thinner picks that I had been playing and the heavier picks that Jaketto makes. And the more we started kind of talking about that and talking about guitar stuff, and I was talking to Matt and Ted about this, I was like, it'd be really cool if we can have Jack come on and talk about these picks because it's clear that he's really passionate about this, that he takes a lot of pride in his work. And so really they are gorgeous picks. They play beautifully. They, like Ted said, are a piece of art in themselves.
It literally is art.
It is.
Like the color designs, and they're, the various, some of it's see-through, or there's like just what I'm looking at. There's, more or less cloudy colors in a clear, what you could describe as resin, I suppose. It just looks, I don't know. It's so cool. I don't know how else to describe it without actually sending people to the website.
Yeah.
It's unique. It's beautiful. It's different. I know I'm going to have a very, very hard time receiving my picks from Jaketto because part of me is going to want to say, I want to play with them. But then part of me is going to want to say, I want to get a nice little frame and just put it right there and just hang it on the wall because it's just absolutely beautiful.
I'll play them and put them on a display.
we get that all the time where people have bought, say, 10 picks, they get them shipped out, and then they say, oh, well, my favorite one is this. I'm like, oh, how's it play? It's like, oh, I'm not playing it. It's like, well, you know, I'm sleeping for hours here. I'd love it if you played it. So.
Keep that in mind, you two.
Yeah, right. All right, so we'll have to be forced to show a video of us using it at least once or twice and send that video over.
I'll make it happen.
That's right. That's right. So enough of us rattling on about the picks. We're certainly going to hear more about them, and I'll share some photos and videos of the picks that I've received so far on social media. I'll put them in the video version of the show as well, but for the people who just listen to the show, we'll put them on social media if you want to see what they look like, and we'll put the links to the website and the social media accounts for Jaketto into the description as well, and I highly recommend that after the show, or maybe even during the show, you go check out the picks that Jack is making because really they're so hard to describe. You have to see them. They really are beautiful. But enough of our ramblings. Let's hear a little from Jack about this. So, you know, I know I'm curious to find out. I know, Jack, when we had talked initially, you had mentioned that you were a guitar tech previously. So I'm curious as to how you transition from guitar tech to pick maker, because I feel like that's not something that most people jump into. And so I'm just curious as to how you got into making picks. And I know you just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of Jaketto Picks being in business, which is really awesome. So congratulations on that.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. So it's a bit of a weird transition in terms of things. So basically what happened was I used to be in website design for a retailer in Australia, and they have a guitar tech side of things. And that went on, and then I got another job and so on, and went on for a while. I started making picks I didn't start making picks. I started selling picks in very late March 2020. And that went on for 3 months, and I was happiest I've ever been in my life. Worked out great, everything. And then through weird opportunity, the person I used to make, edit the website for and everything, we basically got talking. He's like, oh, we got a guitar tech thing open. I went, oh, okay. So I went and did that for a little while. So maybe like 3 months or so. And, you know, you're running through guitars every day. And that didn't end up working out. And long story short is the next day I'm sitting there and Mandy, my wife, kind of said to me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to make the biggest boutique guitar pick company the world has got. So, in that's how we ended up going from 3 months. And every day during that, so I did 3 months, and it was about 3 months off while I did the guitar tech work. And during that time, it was like 10 messages a day of people going, when are you going to make more picks? When are you going to make more picks? I'm like, oh, we're closed, man. It's not happening anymore. But it was quite odd in terms of my mental state between, whilst I enjoyed being a guitar tech and being there, it was like you kind of lose a lot of drive and a lot of focus. But as soon as I went back to making guitar picks, it's just all happy sunshine and flowers again for me. So it's this weird kind of thing where I feel like sometimes I'm not having a choice in what I do. It's just my mind goes, yep, this is what you're meant to be doing in life. You're making these little guitar picks, and that's it, which is I'm quite content with, but it's very weird that it worked out this way.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's really an interesting story. And I know you put a lot of time into those picks. So, you know, people looking for them. And I mean, even now you're putting out, I mean, I don't know how many you're making at a time, but I know every day there's usually 4 or 5 of them on the website, and those, you know, like we said earlier, those go very quickly. So, it's you making the picks, but you also have one other person who makes picks with you, and that's Smitty. And Smitty's got an interesting background as well. That if I recall, so a couple of things about Smitty. First of all, I think you had mentioned he does not play guitar, and
which already a non-guitar player making guitar picks sounds a bit interesting.
Right.
But I mean, I'll let you tell the story about it. But I mean, I think because of that, it has changed some of the design and how the guitar picks are made, because it's an outside person looking in at
Right.
guitar playing, which certainly I feel like has affected some of the designs of your picks as opposed to others. So maybe before we unpack too many questions, let's start with that first.
Okay, so yes, Smitty does not play guitar in the slightest. I've said it a million times, and I'll always say this sentence: I could pay him $200 and he couldn't play me "Smoke on the Water." It doesn't happen. He doesn't know a thing. He couldn't tune a guitar or anything. But the great thing about like you said is because of that, he can look at stuff to do with guitar, and you'll be like, that doesn't make sense. Why isn't it done this way? And that's a really beautiful thing. Like when I first started, I was hell bent on like, oh, it has to be this measurement, it has to be this, has to be that. And I was just to the T every single time, just nailing it. And he goes to me one day, kind of doing his thing, and it was like a bit offset is the way to put it, and it's became the norm for us now. But he's said it, he's showing me, and he's like, oh, try this. And I'm like, this is going to be ridiculous because it was heavily offset. And then he's like, well, your hand is, when you're holding your pick, it's not like it's equal, if that makes sense. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So I picked it up. I'm like, actually, this feels weird. Weird. This feels good, even though it looks weird. So from that point, we kind of got to this degree, and Kayla would know this quite well by now. Sometimes we might bring a corner down a little bit, or we might make one side a bit flatter than the other. And the good thing about that too is when we're doing it, it's not just the colors, it's also the shape. It might be a very, very, very close to the other one. So like our models like Falcon and that. But between each Falcon, there might be a side where Smitty or myself has been like, oh, we'll bring that down a little bit, or we'll do this, because also sometimes we have an interesting piece of the material and we want to incorporate that. So we make it just a tiny bit bigger to get that to shine through. So there's all these other factors that come through. But no, he's brilliant at what he does. And the story behind that was he kind of, I remember sending him a message, and I was begging him. And I'm like, dude, you've got to help me, because I've known this guy my entire life. I said, dude, you've got to help me. I need to make guitar picks, and I can't make them fast enough. And he goes, I don't play guitar, and I don't know how to make picks. I'm like, okay, all right. So I didn't think this through, because he was the only person available, basically. And he kind of was like, I don't know how. And I'm like, okay, I'll show you how. And if it works out, it works out. And then if not, we won't worry. It's okay. So he comes along, and I said, how much sandpaper have you used? And he said, oh, well, I used to detail cars. I'm like, yes, you did. Awesome. So he already had like these hands-on experience with heaps of sandpaper and that. So I'm like, sweet. And I showed him how to make it. And then he took a bit, like maybe an hour for his first one, which is fine. That's cool. First time jumping in the water. And he goes, oh, how's that? And I've kind of played it. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, that's nearly as good as one of mine. So, so it is freaky. This guy kind of has this, and I have had other people in here, to be completely transparent. I have had others try and make picks, and it just doesn't work out.
Sure.
So whatever it is, this guy's gift to the world is apparently guitar picks, even though he has nothing to do with the instrument. So, I mean, I have to pull him aside sometimes a bit and really say to him that, hey, what you're doing is very special, and it makes a lot of difference to people's lives, even if it doesn't feel that way. If you're able to change, say, me, for example, I played guitar a decade before I got introduced to different picks apart from, say, Dunlop. Mm-hmm. And once I realized there was a realm outside that, I'm like, oh, this is a thing. Like, this will change your tone and this will change your playing. And it's this completely different world. It's like when you first find out about like new guitar pedals and such. So if you can affect someone's life in that way, which Smitty does, then, thumbs up. It's a beautiful thing.
For sure. And so, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that you'd been playing as long as you had before you kind of started looking at other picks, because I'm kind of in a similar situation where I've been playing guitar for a little over 20 years now. And in all that time, I never really gave much thought to the picks. And, it was always, well, the guitar and the wood and the strings you use and, the various aspects of a guitar that affect its sound and the pedals that you're using and the amp that you're using. But I never once really gave the pick any thought other than just like, oh, okay, this pick feels comfortable for me to play. And it wasn't until a few months ago, honestly, that I started trying out other picks and realizing what a difference different types of picks make on your sound, and not even just different types of picks, but even just the different types of picks that you guys are making at Jaketto. And like, you know, right now I've got 6 of them, and all 6 of them are different in different ways. I can pick up any one of them and have a totally different playing experience. So it's definitely like, I don't know how many other guitar players are out there that have kind of experienced a similar situation where it's more been about the comfort of a pick and less of the thought of how that pick is affecting the sound of your playing. So, you know, that's something that's really been interesting to me, just to experiment with different picks and how they affect my sound. So, it's really cool to me that Smitty does not play, and yet I know that some of these picks, at least that I have probably been made by him, and they're some of the best playing picks that I've ever played with in my life. In fact, Ted and I were talking via text this morning because, as these guys know, for a long time, my primary pick was the Pickboy Edges. And I know Matt and Ted are not big. Yeah, Ted's got one he's holding up here if you're watching the video version. These guys aren't big fans of them just because they're on the smaller side. And I can certainly understand that. And so Ted told me if I want that clear pick that he just picked up, that I'm welcome to have it. And and I told him, I'm like, I'm going to be totally honest. For the last month or so, since I got my first batch of picks from Jaketto, I really have not picked up my Pickboy Edges once in that time. I've gone to these and I have not gone back. And so, you know, one of the things I know that I was definitely curious about is, you know, I would also hazard a guess that the average guitarist probably has not played a pick that's heavier than maybe a 1.25 millimeter pick. I know the heaviest I think I've ever played is a 1 millimeter. And so I'm curious as to how you ended up settling on, like, was there a conscious thought process behind having a thicker pick, or is that just kind of something that happened through experimenting and making the picks?
The real answer is a bit of both.
Okay.
So when it comes down to it, so my pick history, which is probably important for this answer. So I started off and I was like, I want the thinnest pick I can get. That's me as a guitar player. They shred. And it's like, kind of like, I think it's easy for guitarists, including myself, to get caught up with the identity of like, oh, like for me, I was always like, Ibanez guitars, thin picks. That's me. And then as
Fender
I got
heavies. Fender heavies.
Yeah.
Hello, I got more than a lifetime's worth right here.
That's exactly it. And we kind of forget that there's this world outside of what we got, apart from these small things that pop up. And that's completely fine. If you love what you got, that's awesome. And like, I've had people say to me, oh, you know, I don't like thicker picks. I really love this. I'm like, that's awesome. Then you've thumbs up. I'm happy that you're happy. That's exactly what I want. But the thing is, when it comes to this thickness thing, I started off with these thin ones and I gradually went thin, thicker, thin, thicker. But when I'm talking thicker, it's like 1 mil. So it's not in the realm of what I do now.
Right.
And it got to this point where I was 21, I want to say. I was around that age. Yeah, because I've been playing a decade and I was playing about 5 hours a day with a metronome. So I'm just tearing through these guitar picks. I'm like, surely I don't have to just buy thousands of guitar picks at the time. So I was like, okay, what's the longest lasting guitar pick? And I came across Dragon's Heart or Dragon Heart picks. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this might last a bit longer. So I went to that and then just put me down this massive rabbit hole of, oh, what's this? What's that? What's this? And then I kind of got into a situation where I got to try resin or epoxy guitar picks. Mm-hmm. And I was like, the capabilities of this are just endless, especially like tonality, because the thing, like Kayla said before, they're so different when it comes to the thickness and everything. I had a friend here, he literally said, can I come over and buy some picks? I went, yeah, absolutely. He came over and we got like a little studio set up here and he had maybe 20 of them and he's playing through and he just looks up at me and goes, they all sound different. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's absolutely crazy. that it's the same material, but you can get this kind of different approach with it. And I guess it's kind of similar to guitar strings, where it can be the same material, but because of the thickness, whatever reason, it just has that. Yeah, it's got that different mojo going on.
Well, and I think just for our listeners and understanding, when we're talking about 1 millimeter picks being on average the thickest picks the average guitar player has played, just looking at his website right now, we're talking 2.5, 4.5, 5, 7 millimeter thickness.
About the thickness of a Oreo cream center.
Yeah.
If there's any type of an image.
Double stuff or?
I don't know, Jacko. Is there a future of double stuff thickness picks in the future? No, I'm just kidding.
Potentially, who knows?
No, I'm
But if
definitely
there's
looking
any
forward
type of
to.
a guesstimate, it's if in the visual, it's probably about that thick, regular Oreo size.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying the picks that are coming, just because I've never used a guitar pick outside of the standard up to a millimeter, whatever, run of the mill type of guitar picks, and hearing the great feedback from Kayla, and just curious to give it a shot. And obviously, when we talk about thickness, a lot of it's tapered down, so there's actually a point. So it's not necessarily a hunk of resin that you're just plucking with. It does have, it is sanded down. It appears to be sanded down anyway. So it does have a point, so you can be more precise with it. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to trying something different.
Yeah, well, the thing is, sometimes we'll taper them down and then have a bevel. Sometimes we'll just have a flat, then a bevel, and all these different approaches. But one of the big things we get is the number one thing that concerned me when I started was I was worried about someone being like, oh, I get it and I don't like it and blah, blah, blah. But usually what happens is the furthest that's ever gone is someone being like, I got it yesterday and played it, and then I was like, I don't know if it's for me. And then I'm like, okay, well, just give it a few days. And then they contact me the next day and they're like, I can't go back. It's just like I had a guy over in Texas message me yesterday or the day before, and he said, I just got 5 picks from you and I went to go play a jazz through and it feels like a toy. So I'm like, well, I'll take that as a compliment. So it's this kind of thing where you have to kind of, if it doesn't click at first, just expose yourself a little bit more, like let it come in. And then what will happen is, worst case scenario is you know what you don't like.
Right.
Sure,
Exactly.
but then you have a great piece of art.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can safely say that I kind of went out on a limb the first couple that I ordered because, and I know we've talked about this through some of the messages we've exchanged, but for our audience who may not know, I really kind of debated because, like I said, the heaviest pick I'd ever played was a 1 millimeter, and my pick boy edges were .88s, and that's a pretty thin pick in comparison. And I happen to have another brand of picks that I talked about in the Gear Talk episode we did on picks that weren't as heavy as a lot of the picks that I've gotten from Jaketto, but they were definitely heavier than the picks I was playing. And so I decided to give those a try, and I found that I really liked a heavier pick. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get some of these. But also the other really big selling point for me, and Jack, you kind of touched on this, was that I think at least my thought process, I don't want to speak for other guitar players, but my thought process has always been that thinner picks for faster playing. And it wasn't until I saw, because you guys endorse a number of artists as well, and you often share videos that those artists will post of their playing. And I think you had posted one, and I don't remember who it was at this point, but whoever it was shredding away on this song with this really heavy pick. And I'm like, holy crap. Okay. So clearly my conception, like the notion that I had that you could not play fast with a heavy pick like that was clearly BS, because that wasn't stopping this person. And I gotta be honest, ever since starting to play with these, I actually think these are probably some of the fastest picks that I've ever played before. And I think my playing is a lot more accurate with a heavier pick because I think the way either Matt or Ted, one of you described it when we were doing our gear talk on picks, was that the flimsier picks, the thinner ones, kind of feel like sometimes you just go straight down through the strings and hit strings that you don't mean to because it just kind of keeps going.
There's no resistance to it.
Right.
In that sense.
And that's certainly not the case with the Jakettos that I've been playing so far. So just for, anybody in our audience that plays guitar that might be like, well, I don't know, thick pick, how do you play with that real fast? Let me just tell you that it really, like Jack said, if you get one and you're unsure, play it a few more times, because that was kind of me initially when I started playing with a heavier gauge pick. I was like, I don't know if I really like this. And then I kept coming back to it a few days later, and eventually I was like, okay, I really like these. And like I said, I have not picked up my Pickboy Edge in a month now because I just don't see myself going back to it. So, yeah, it's really interesting to go from the transition from thin picks to a heavier pick. But I love these picks. I'd be surprised if there's anybody out there who doesn't like these picks after giving them a chance, for sure.
I know that's definitely one thing I'm looking forward to when these picks come in is, so I know when I typically, if I'm practicing either to like a metronome or, lately it's been YouTube, just guitar tracks, guitar backing tracks, is playing the song with a thin pick and then playing it with a medium pick and then playing it with a heavy pick. And I notice a playing difference, when switching off. And even though it could be the same song, obviously the same guitar with the same strings, the utilization of a pick does make a difference. So when my Jaketto pick comes in,
you're gonna have to play that song four times.
Yeah, it's gonna have to play it 4 times. I mean, hey, Chicago's 25-624. I have no problem playing some Terry Kath and whatnot, but that's definitely something, I'm probably gonna be able to say to myself, like what that Texas guy said, which is, oh wow, you know what? These are just like amateur hour, picks, like whoop, into the trash.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was going to ask, Kayla brought up the sponsored artists, and on your website there certainly are a number of different artists on the page that you sponsor. And how did you, coming up on 1 year, there's a lot of artists on that list. How did you find them? How did that work? Like, how did you get them sold on your pick? I mean, granted, we're already sold. I guess it didn't take too much. But how about these people, in the various groups and bands and artists that are using your pick now? How did you find them?
Sure. So a lot of the guys there, I have a tendency to be way more interested in smaller artists with a lot more active fans, if that makes sense. So I have talked to bigger artists before, and during the conversations, it doesn't really work out or something like that. And every time I talk to one of these guys to start with, pretty much the process is they have to like the pick first. I don't want to endorse someone that isn't just like, oh, an endorsement, geez, that's the best thing in the world. I want someone that's like, I love this. I want to use this till the day I die. And that's where I'm like, great, we're on the same page. And then usually I'll jump into a call with them, much like this. And pretty much the first thing I usually say, and you could probably ask any of the artists this and they'll tell you, I say, if you're not a nice person, it's just not going to work.
I mean, baseline for life in a lot of ways. Like,
yep. Yeah. So it's just like I look at, because we all have obviously a chat and everything. There's a lot of jokes and that happen in there and everything like that. But man, if someone's not nice and a kind person and wants the best for everyone else there, it's just not gonna go. So that's the first thing. But what happens is once they get into that, they're always like, I'll tell you a fantastic story here. So I use them a lot in the design process. So there's a guy called Donovan Lloyd, who is a fantastic guitarist. Please check him out, as he is a Jaketto artist. But there's been probably 2 or 3 times now, I've sent him a message and I'm like, hey, Donovan, what what are you doing? And he goes, oh, nothing. I'm like, do you want to spend some money with me? He goes, yes, I want to spend some money. So we end up spending like $300, $400, $500 on stuff. And there's been a few times I've done that with all the guys. So Donovan's an interesting character at the moment. He has a very, very good opportunity in front of him. So hopefully in the next few months, there'll be something about him. But he was kind of contacted on a whim. That guy, he was using them anyway. And I knew he had this opportunity. And I was like, all right, come on board. I believe in you, mate. But yeah, all the guys there, you know, they're there because they love what we do. And that's the way it's got to be. It's, you know, just them guys, they do get free stuff from time to time, or they get heavy discounts or everything like that. But yeah, all of them are there because they love it, and they've just reached out to me and said these things. So if anyone is listening in that realm and they already have picks, you know, we're always up for a conversation, even if it's not open at the moment. It at least puts it in the forefront of my mind or Smitty's mind or Mandy's mind. And there's been people that we've been like, no, it's closed. And then a few months later, they're still just going Jaketto picks, Jaketto picks, Jaketto picks. And it's like, well, you're already doing half the work. I may as well endorse you at this rate. So that does happen, even though we're closed. There was a young guy who's now endorsed called Darren, a lovely, lovely bloke. And he said to me, I want to be endorsed. And I said, you're not ready yet, mate. It's like, you're not at that point. I said, I said to him, I'll take an hour out of my day. We can have a conversation about what needs to happen. Then I'll endorse you. And it went on, and he was ticking all the boxes. I thought, oh, okay, he's for real. All right. He's invested in new cameras and stuff like that. And then he sends me a message and goes, oh, well, I think I'm ready to be endorsed. And I was like, you're nearly there, but not quite. And then I left it a few days, and I'm like, he's ticked all the boxes. I can't say no. So I had Mandy call him and tell him. So that was a bit exciting. So yeah, it's all these things where if I do notice someone is giving it like their all and that, and it's not just like, oh, I want to be endorsed. They're like, no, I love what you're doing. I believe this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So that's how it happens. And all these people, like, I think it would have been either Connor or David McDaniel, Kayla, that you saw both those guys just absolutely tear up and down the neck of a guitar. And
yeah,
they're two guys that as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh, you like my picks? Yeah, you can be endorsed. I don't mind at all. Because I was already aware of David McDaniel to a large degree because of the guitar company he's endorsed by, GOC. And I found him by chance, and then I saw he ordered a pick, and I'm like, if I sent him a message, I said, I want you to be honest. If you don't like it, don't take this. But if you like the pick, I'll endorse you hands down. Just let me know what happens. So, yeah, there are some people that kind of get that, how would you say, express lane to endorsement. And then there's others that I have to say, oh, look, it's never a no, it's always a not yet. Mm-hmm. So that's the way it goes.
Nice. And I think even to kind of step back a little bit, in being in business for 1 year, and it sounded like you were working on guitar picks and possibly selling to friends, and then obviously with the website now it's like all international in terms of sales. And are you doing any sort of local media or advertising and on the Australia side to help promote the brand, or is it strictly through the website and it's just word of mouth and it's just moving along just fine?
So I have never done like local stuff apart from people that know me. The first one I made, I was like, oh, this is great. And then I showed him one of my friends, and he's like, hey, can you make me one? Because it still had kind of that Jaketto look to it. And he's like, can you make me one? I went, oh, okay, sure. And then it went on for a while, and I was unfortunately quite sick at the time. And my wife, Mandy, said to me, you're making these picks, why don't you sell them? Like, what else are you going to do? And I said, okay, well, you know what? I've been in the industry for so long making websites and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then, first day sold out. I was like, oh, okay. So in terms of advertising, it's all just internet. Word of mouth is a big one from the artists, which is a godsend. I'm so glad I've got them. Yeah, a lot of it is word of mouth. Like, I do pour lots of money into advertising, everything like that, of course, on the internet and social media and such. But man, the artists put in so much legwork for me. It's not funny. So they do get rewarded in a way. But yeah, it is a lovely thing when you've got people that truly believe in what you do, or they know if you're having a rough time, like with weather, and that they actually genuinely check in on you because you're all friends with them now. So it does work out.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I suppose another question that I have, and every day I love checking your Instagram because it's a countdown post of what picks are coming in for the day. And every day it's a different design, colored design, random shapes, or not to say random shapes, but specific styles that you create. What is it? Just spin the wheel, throw a dart at the board? I want to make a bunch of blue and black and purple picks, and or for one, or what it just
what's
seems
the process?
Yeah, what's the process of even coming up with, I'm gonna make these 5 for the day? Or I feel like you would make a batch of something and then you just have like a lot of the same design, just in various shapes, but it's always different. There's no two that are so close that they were even in the same pot together at one point, as a liquid. So I'm curious about that.
That'd be great if you're just at the kitchen table, like having eggs and bacon, and just you have a hat that says picks that we're gonna make, and it's just inside the hat are all just strips of paper that have like a color to them. So magenta,
I
blue,
need to pull 3 colors
yellow.
out.
These are our picks.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting process in that way. I always say to Smitty that when it stops being fun, I'll stop doing it. So I don't think that's ever going to happen. So every day I'm like, hey, I haven't done this color for a while. What if we do this? What if we do that? What if we light this on fire? What if we do this? It's all these different things that come into mind that it's
not a phrase that I used everyday life. What if we light this on fire? Just want to point that out.
Well, it is a literal phrase in this sense.
And I understand. We've had conversations prior to this, but Matt, I think you're killing it when you can actually say that phrase and get away with it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's been times some of the artists aren't aware. So the artists don't know the full design process, but there's times I'll call them and or they'll call me and I'll answer and then they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just lighting stuff on fire. Leave it. I'll talk to you in a bit. So there's a lot of flames in the workshop, but, there's a lot of safety in that too. There's like, it's not just flames either that, help us get what's going on. It's flames. I won't go into too in depth, but there's just so many techniques we do. But flames is one of the ones that seem to catch people off guard. So I find it a lot of fun when I get to tell people that. But to answer your question, it kind of is a bit spin the wheel. It's like, hey, what's going to make me really excited to wake up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. and just get in there and make these picks tomorrow? So I might have batches that I make or single ones that I make. It depends on the pick, but every day I always prepare for the next day. So I'm like, what will I wake up? And I'll usually wake up before an alarm. What will I wake up to and be like, I am so looking forward to seeing these. So every day it's got to be something that are fun or something different from the last. And occasionally we will do series, but in my head, it's like, man, if this isn't fun and I'm not enjoying this every day and I don't wake up before that alarm, just like itching to get out of bed and make these picks, then there's not much point. So my perspective of that as a business owner, if I'm like that, I can only imagine the customers that are after one when they're thinking, oh, well, every single day is different.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like this trade-off of both me wanting it to be that way or Smitty wanting it to be that way, and most importantly, the customer, which is what we try and do the most, is bring a lot of value to them.
Yeah. And I have to say, it was so one of the things that I think is really cool, and hopefully I'm not telling our audience something that's not common, but the first pick that I ordered, shortly after I ordered it, I got a message on Instagram from Jack with a video of the pick, which I thought was really cool because he's got really great pictures on the website to showcase these picks, but sometimes I'm like, even with the measurements and everything, I'm very much a visual person, so I need to have something there to compare it to. So seeing somebody actually hold the pick and show it from all angles really gives you a different idea of what that pick looks like than just seeing pictures sometimes. And so it was really cool to see this pick, having a reference, somebody's holding it. Now I know, what the actual size of this pick is, the thickness. You can kind of see angles of it that you don't necessarily see. But one of the things that I thought was really cool was a pick a while back that I got, and I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was this one, and I don't remember what it's called, but I'll put a picture of it on social media. But this one, so I have since learned how to kind of tell where there might be a clear part on a pick looking at the pictures, but it wasn't clear to me at the time looking at the pictures. But there's a big section of the pick kind of up near the shoulder that's see-through. And when I got the video from Jack before he shipped this out to me, he was like, yeah, and we did a burn right here. And I was like, wow, I would not have known that that's what that was had I not gotten this video where he explained that. So I just want to say that that's a really cool thing that Jack does when you order a pick.
It's a personal touch.
Right.
And I think that's definitely from a consumer aspect, very attractive.
Yeah,
right.
With that, it is public that we do it. It's more or less, I've got to set up the website to kind of have this ingrained into it. So when people go to the checkout, they can go, oh, here's my Instagram. But there's times like, I know with the first one with you, Kayla, I was like, I'm sure I've seen her name before or something to that effect. And I just go to the followers and type in the name on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. If I can find them, I'm like, great, I'm going to send you a video out of the blue. And the amount of people that go, oh, I didn't even know you were aware I was following you. I'm like, I keep very up to date on who's following me. And if they've got an order, I try and find them the best I can. Right. I mean, that's the way it goes. And the thing is, people love when they get a video of something they've just purchased. And it's like, I would like that. So why wouldn't the customer like that? Mm-hmm. Because we go through a full repeat wax, buff, polish, everything like that before the pics go out, just as a quality control check again. So because of that, it's like, well, it makes sense to send a video of the pic, in its prime before it goes overseas or something like that. And it gets people more excited too and gives a bit more faith in the company and what me and Smitty do and what Mandy does here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's I can only imagine the last batch that I had you ship out because there were 12 of them. I woke up and there was just a list of videos in my messages and I'm like, oh, Jack must be getting ready to send out the pics that we just ordered.
We wound up ending the episode we recorded last week and Kayla just pulls it up. We're obviously on Zoom already. And then we watched all the videos one after the other. I'm like, ooh, whose is that one? Is that one mine? No, is that one yours? Like, we're just trying to figure out whose is whose. Because at this point, there's so many in the list. But no, definitely looking forward to it.
That was not a good day we did those picks. Not because of the picks or because of the order. It was because it has been raining here the last week. And it was raining so heavy, me and Smitty in times could not hear each other talk in the workshop.
Wow.
So, it's been ridiculous. And we've both left the workshop and my ears are ringing from the shed just having that much rain. And I think we measured it. Smitty, I think he had 85 decibels at one point, just for hours in that. Oof. It was ridiculous. So, wow. It was a lot of fun working on the picks, but by the end, it's got to 7 o'clock at night or whatever it was, and we're looking at each other being like, yeah, that's a day. We're done.
What? Yeah. I said we're going home. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Overtime? Okay. No, go home.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Man.
While we're still talking about composition, and before we change gears, I want to also talk about the wood picks, because that was a really interesting transition, because we have been following your page and your posts and the picks you've been putting out. And then we caught wind that there would be wood picks, and we were glued to the website just to see what that would look like. And holy moly, the first one that came out was beautiful. Obviously sold in a second. But I mean, just the fact that you have incorporated wood now into those picks, it looks so cool.
For the record, I have a wood pick coming.
That's right. It's in the order.
So do I.
I am a huge fan of just wood anything. And, that news came out, wood being in the picks, sold.
Yeah. And it looks like you're using the same piece of wood, because the grain seems consistent amongst the 3 or 4 that you've done so far. Where did you, I mean, what kind is this wood again? It's a
Pacific maple, I believe that one was off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's really neat because it has, in the photographs, it has like this greenish bleed through in the grain, and then some of them have some of the actual like the resin, kind of like the red in this flame hydra one kind of got caught in the grooves of that wood as well. What made you opt for that wood versus something else? I mean, I understand from a grip perspective that would make a lot of sense, as I'm just projecting what it would feel like. But why that type of wood?
So with the wood design, so I'll go into the green going through it. This is quite interesting. We have a numerous amount of polishes we use here, and obviously there's different kinds. So we got to a point where we've got one that is like a primarily green color, and I was sitting there, I'm like, if I do this, it's going to bleed through the wood, which will look really cool. So that's how we got the green in the Pacific maple. Normally it's like this kind of a little bit darker than, say, like maple on necks or fretboards or anything. So we're like, oh, we'll do that. That looks cool. Or maybe we'll have like a little bit of a resin bleed into and all these things. How long do you want the story of how we got the wood? Because it's quite interesting.
As long as we've got time.
As long as you want.
Okay.
I'm ready to learn. Let's go.
All right. So we'd been talking to artists about this since about December. It's been a long process. Like everything goes through this long-winded process of this is what we're doing. This is what's going to happen this year. We had pretty much our very small NAMM speech at the start of the year to all the artists and set out this thing. So basically what happened was I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I got to get this wood. It's March or February, I think I got it. I've got to get it done. We're going to get this ball rolling. So I was like, okay, I can order on the internet. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just go into town because we live in a town of 1,500. The next one across is about 20,000. I was like, I'll go in there and see what happens. So I went in there and I just turned up to this treated timbers place and I told him exactly what I needed. And it was a lady at first. And she's like, I don't know if we can do that. And I went, okay. And she goes, I'll call my husband. And I waited 5 minutes. He came in. And he goes, I don't know if we can do that. I went, okay, all right. So I'm defeated. I'm like a dog left in the rain. I'm very upset at this point. So
a deaf dog in the rain.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he sat there for a bit and he goes, actually, let me see what I got at home and call back in a few days. And I went, oh, okay. So a few days went past and Mandy was nearby. I said, just go in. Like, I'm busy. I can't call. Just drop in. She goes, what do I say? Told her what to say. She goes in and she goes, oh, they sorted something out for you. And I went, okay, all right. So I went in, I think it was 2 days later, and he goes, oh, mate, how you going? You're the guitar pick guy. And I went, yeah, that's me. So he sat there and goes, oh, give me a second. And I'm thinking, oh, no, we're about to get like this really old pine that's like half rotten or something, and it's the best we can do, and I'm just not going to use it. I'm going to have to go, that's fantastic, mate. Thank you so much. And then put it in the bin. But he comes out and he has Pacific maple, rosewood, western cedar, Tasmanian blackwood, and he's standing there with all these different types of wood. So we aren't just going to have what's there. It's so many at the moment. And he sat there and he's holding them and he goes, oh, here you go. I said, are you serious? Like, is this what you're giving me? He goes, yeah. I said, oh, thank you so much. I said, how much do I owe you, mate? And he sat there for a second and he just shrugs his shoulders. He goes, oh, don't worry about it. I was like, are you kidding me?
That's very generous.
Oh, it was like, I was expecting to spend $500 on what he gave me. There was so much and we still got it. And we only just started using it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to go and buy him like a carton of drinks or something now. But yeah, it was incredible. And it kind of, one of those moments where you go, oh, well, my faith in humanity's spiked upwards from here on. So it was a very lovely moment. But yeah, we've got so many coming through. The rosewood is one we're especially looking forward to. The Tasmanian blackwood is quite interesting as well.
It sounds super cool.
Oh,
yeah, it's already exotic Tasmania already for us in the US. So it sounds pretty neat. Is it dark? It's quite dark. The rosewood that we got is kind of like that reddish coloured rosewood that you get, kind of closer to Pau Ferro. So
it's just one of those things where we've got so much in the works with that stuff. I can't really say here because obviously new series and stuff like that. Ooh, isn't that mysterious?
I'm refreshing the page now.
It's going to be a while, probably in a month or two. We're just working on something very special with the rosewood, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, so actually, by the time this episode comes out, it might be current.
It could be. It depends on what happens with one of our artists and such. But yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens in that regard.
That's awesome.
All right, let me just get my wife to get my wallet. Hold on.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
no, that's
I know.
Great.
Just a quick kind of side note on that, because Jack, I know we had talked about this a little bit, but and I'm hoping that I'm not like choppy for you guys because I'm getting a notice that my internet's unstable.
You're fine. Keep it going.
Okay. I know that we had talked a little bit about the wood picks, and I know one of the things you were pretty adamant about was that the wood was not going to be used for the tip of the pick because
yes.
For those maybe not familiar with playing a wood pick, wood tends to wear down pretty quickly, especially certain types of wood. So one of the cool things about these, and if you've seen any of the Jaketto picks in the past, the Phoenix series, they're kind of like the Phoenix series, but with wood in kind of the core or in the shoulder area of the pick instead, which is cool because you still get the experience of having a pick that has wood, but not having to worry quite so much about that pick wearing down as quickly, which is, always a concern and something that I know I've talked to you about quite a bit because of another brand of picks I have that I've got a couple that are wood, and even those, just after very little playing, I've found that they're starting to wear, and so I've kind of decided I'm not going to play those anymore. And so that would kind of stink to not be able to keep playing the pick because of worrying of wearing it down. So I did just want to note that is one aspect of the picks that I know you were pretty adamant that you were not going to use the wood for the tip for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very conscious decision by me and Smitty. And, we talked to numerous artists about it who all had similar experiences with wood. And that's not to subtract anything from wood or wooden guitar pick makers.
Sure.
It's just everyone's experience with it. It was like, everyone's like, no, I really enjoy what you're doing, Jack. Please keep using the same material for the tips. And I'm like, well, that's great because it means we can keep our art style and everything like that the same as we always do. It's just more of a hybrid now, like, incorporating the grip of wood with everything like that. And it's just the way it ended up, and it came out pretty well. So
awesome. Yeah, I might have to come back from my pick buying hiatus here when some of these new picks come out. And
I'm not buying anything until I get the two that are on their way. So, and then. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then I'm going to talk these other guys into signing up, so it'll be one giant shipment again.
I don't know. My pick, I still haven't gotten it, but that Tasmanian Blackwood one though.
I know, right? That just sounds so cool.
Yeah, it's very
badass.
very nice. Yeah, it does.
What are you using? I'm using the Jaketto Tasmanian Blackwood pick.
Sounds rather exotic.
And it comes with the sound effect.
It does.
Oh man.
I don't know how Smitty's going to incorporate that into the pick, but Jack, you got to get him on it.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that one to him, not myself.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh man. So real quick, unless I don't want to veer off onto a slightly different topic, Matt or Ted, if you guys have more questions about the wood picks in particular or anything about the
No, I think that it pretty much answers it. I do find it it's kind of what I expected in terms of spinning the wheel and not knowing what you're going to make. And I haven't made this in a while. That mentality, and certainly looking at the selection of picks that are currently on the website, which always rotates. You can certainly do so many different things that I don't know how you would get bored. There's just so much variety in what you offer. I don't know that there would be a morning that you wouldn't be awake before your alarm clock. So that makes sense.
Yeah, lots of fun, that's for sure, especially when we're working with like glow or like color shifting pigments or something like that. There's so many options that we do, and it's just every morning it's exciting. And you know, I'm a bit nervous about what's going to happen in a year. Hopefully I don't get bored of it, but I doubt I will. But that's when you keep pushing stuff to new extremes, you know. That's just part and parcel of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And I know you guys have been working kind of around the clock because you're getting ready to go out on a road trip here to do an artist series with your sponsored artists. And did you say you were making 400 picks for that? Something.
No. So actually, it probably will work out to that in the long run. It's probably about $500 worth of picks every trip we do. So I'd probably be dead if I tried to make 400 picks.
That's why I was like, did you sleep?
Yeah, well, I don't get much sleep as it is.
Yeah.
But no, we're basically the process will be so Jaketto on the road, just for the listeners that don't know about it, is basically we are going to see artists. The first set is artists. So we're going to see them next week, next Friday. So this time next week, I'll probably be asleep from making a 6-hour trip and then a 6-hour trip back. But Jaketto on the road, we're going to see artists, just normal musicians that have studio equipment, and people we literally don't know is the intention, and just taking hundreds of dollars of pics at them and pretty much a blindfold test. They don't know what they're getting. I'm making experimental shapes, experimental colors, everything like that. And I put it in their court. I just say, you have to be 100% honest, even if you hate it. So you have to at least go, I like this one. I don't like this one. I really don't like this one. And the whole intention is that a lot of people go, oh, what do your picks sound like? What do they feel like? I don't know if I like them. So the opportunity there is to have a live reaction from people just trying these picks. And ones with the artists, I've pretty much said to them, hey, you have to be honest. This is an endorsement requirement, this one. So if they don't like them, I'm begging on it. I've actually made some picks that are intentionally bad, I guess you would say. So I can call their bluff if not. So there are a couple of joke picks in there. So that'll be quite interesting to see. But yeah, it's about just taking these picks and bringing them to the music community in some format, whether they're artists or just individuals, and saying, here you go, this is what we have to offer. Here's something different for you to try and hopefully enjoy. And the important thing is we're not going to have the capacity, we have the capacity, but they're not allowed to buy anything that we take down. Okay. So it doesn't matter if someone's like, I love this pick, it's the best thing in the world. I'm like, no, because that's not what this is about, unfortunately. I might give them a pick. I might give them the pick, but it's not going to be bought. But yeah, that's why it's truly exciting for me, is that me and Smitty are pretty much going to do 12 hours of driving in one day to go down, talk to these people, and just like we spent thousands on recording equipment and everything like that. And it's about just putting everything on the line and just being honest as a company. And I think it might be one of those things, either I'm not looking for thousands of views on YouTube from it, but what I am looking for is that people will look at us as a company and be like, oh, okay, well, they believe in their company this much. They will spend thousands on recording stuff, thousands on going down there. And it's just for saying, yep, we believe in what we do 100%. And we want to show that, you know, guitar picks do make a difference.
So my follow-up question is, if they can't buy them, are we going to buy them on the website?
No. So we've already made picks. Me and Smitty absolutely slaved the last 2 weeks making current stock. And then it's like we're trying to just fit in these other ones in bits and pieces.
Gotcha.
And yeah, these ones that are getting tested, they are not getting sold in any capacity.
Just like prototypes of sorts.
Well, yeah, we've got some, older ones in terms of like design. We've got some new ones. We've got some experimental ones. We've got some funny ones. It's just a massive mixture. And the whole reason for it is if we went down with, say, 5 picks that were the same as what we always do, especially with artists that are familiar with our products and how we run things, they are just going to go, yeah, we love this. Whereas we want them to be like, I really liked this because, especially if it's an experimental one. And then the good thing is, yeah, this pick might look very quirky or very different, but there might be a takeaway from it. Maybe they like the angle I did on it, or Smitty did on it, or anything in that regard. So we get a lot of information out of it, obviously. But really, I'm just excited to give back to the community, especially when we get to do the first one was we're going to do artists, because if something goes wrong, they're going to understand, and we already know them as friends anyway. And then it's like after the first 2, and then we start doing strangers, it's going to be like, okay, so we've ironed out the creases of the issues that's going on. So yeah, it's going to be quite interesting at that point. And then, yeah, we'll see where it takes us. I mean, we've already pretty much got 5 people selected, nearly. A couple have got to confirm. And then the year after, we've got a few things lined up as well for it.
Awesome.
That's going to be exciting.
The joke pick
Yeah.
I can only picture as being like a Rubik's Cube of sorts. I don't know. Something with a point that would just be very uncomfortable to hold. I'm just making stuff up.
Well, I wish I could make a Rubik's Cube. I definitely can't solve them, I'll say that much.
No, neither can I.
Oh, man. No, I think, first of all, I'm looking forward to seeing that video and seeing what the reaction is from people, because I'm telling you, as somebody who had not played one of your picks before, and I think, I think I just discovered you actually through a hashtag search, like back in December, either picks or plectrums or something, and I was scrolling through the thousands of pictures that are on Instagram of different pictures that are tagged with those hashtags, and all of a sudden I came across one that I was like, ooh, these are really cool. Okay, follow. And then next thing I know, I'm like, oh boy, I might have to buy some of these. And so again, hopefully not something that I'm sharing that is not common knowledge, or that's not supposed to be out there. So stop me if this is the case. But I know one of the things that you had told me a while back, when I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to like a heavier pick. And you had mentioned that you guys will actually, if somebody is interested in a pick, but they're maybe not sure, they need to see other angles of it, or they need to hear it being played to hear what it sounds like, that you guys will actually put a hold on it for someone to be able to provide them with that information and then let them decide if they want to buy it. And I think that also is a really awesome thing that you offer, because just like why you're going out for people to try these picks, they don't necessarily have the opportunity to try them. But, for us, where the 3 of us, we're in New England, we're thousands of miles away, and there's probably very little chance that we would ever necessarily make it out to your neck of the woods to be able to try one of these picks in person. That's probably the closest thing for one of us, or for somebody who's not nearby, to be able to kind of try one of these picks virtually, I guess, and get to see it in action. So again, hopefully that's not something that that you don't usually tell people. If it is, I'll cut that part out of the out of the interview.
That's 100% correct. It doesn't happen often because we don't publicly do it, but people are like, oh, I want to see more angles of this pick, or something in that regard. They say, oh, I don't know what it sounds like. I'm like, don't worry, buddy, I got you covered. So I'll usually grab a guitar, and that's the way it goes. It's that, guitarists are both very visual, but they're also, obviously incorporate auditory things. So when it comes to audio, it's like, of course I'm going to play with this pick for you. It might be only 15 seconds, 30 seconds, but it's very, very important. And I think that when it comes to the least we can do as a business or guitarists is having empathy and understanding that this is an integral part of playing guitar and an integral part of the sound you have, that of course I'll take time out of my day and test this for you. I mean, I hope it never becomes the case where I've got someone that goes, I want to hear this one and this one and this one, and they ask me to do 500. But yeah,
it's like grabbing multiple samples.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if there's something on the website, because unfortunately with the territory that we're currently in, everything sells out in 2 seconds. But if there's one that's on the website that's hanging about a bit and you want to hear it or you want to see a video of it, by all means, just reach out, and either myself, Smitty, or Mandy will probably see the message and we'll organize it for you.
Awesome. Yeah, and I just have to also say that while I knew that that was an option, I have not actually taken you up on that, because I see the pics and I'm like, nope, I'm buying this one. So
yeah, no, it really is. When we set that countdown, usually I will be working at the same time, say on the website or doing something like that. I'm just staring at the clock. I'm like, all right, well, my phone's about to absolutely go crazy. And I mean, I had to turn it off for this because I'm sure it'll go off a million times. But when it comes to that time of day when the countdown goes over, it's just absolute mayhem for about 10 minutes, and then they're all sold. So,
there was a period of time where it was like for a couple weeks there, no joke, because whatever time it is your time that you're posting these, it was about 5 a.m. here, and I was setting an alarm to go off at 4:55, and I'd have either my laptop or my iPad nearby, and I would just roll over and either turn on the laptop or open up the iPad and go to the website and wait for 5 o'clock on the dot and hit refresh. And there were a couple of times, like actually the White Nova, I was really surprised when I actually got it, because for the few days prior, I had added it to my cart and within seconds it was gone. And I was like, well, geez, I guess I'm not getting that today.
Thank you.
So, I mean, and still even your picks are selling out within a matter of seconds to minutes of them posting. And so I think that not only says a lot about the picks that you're making, how much people want them, but it's almost kind of like a game, sort of, if you want one to be there, like, and right just when it drops.
Our listeners, we're talking about these selling out very quickly. We're talking about them being very artisan. They're handmade. They're really, really cool. They're $20 for one pick, and that's not to say generic, the non-wood ones. The wood ones are more expensive than that. And so just to kind of give a price range for people that have been listening and not understanding, what this actually means, because if you're a standard guitar player and you've been playing Fender heavies forever, a pack of a dozen is like, what, $6?
10 for 10,
right?
On the pick
or
boy
whatever.
end.
So, these are $20-ish and can go higher, depending on what the material is and all the time involved on top of that. So just to throw that out there for listeners too.
Well worth
you can pick and you get a piece of art.
That's right.
I think $20 is perfect.
They're high quality though.
Yeah, I think the highest misconception we have across the board is people reaching out. They're like, what machines do you use to make your picks? And I'm like, none. There's nothing going on here. The closest we get is we might cut something with a machine, but that doesn't even touch the pick. That just kind of goes, oh, well, here we go. Here's like a square now, for a small square from a big square. And then from then it's just handmade. Mm-hmm. So people tend to get this misconception. It's like, oh, but it's so high quality. It's like, yeah, because Smitty's breaking his back in the corner making picks. So, and that's the thing, is that that's the weirdest thing that happens continuously. They're like, how do you make it? How do you make it? I'm like, dude, a lot of sandpaper. That's about all I can share, and it's every single day. So, I mean, there's times me and Smitty have walked away with blood on our hands because we've just had like continuous thing. But now we've got calluses, so we're okay. So, but there's been those times where there's days we've had maybe 5 or 6 breaks because it's just been so labor intensive. And I look over and he's getting a bit frustrated. I'm like, all right, come on, let's go eat. Let's have something to drink or something. And it's just like, my main priority when it's both of us working is him. And it always will be, because it is one of those ball games where if your heart's not into it completely like mine is, he loves it. Don't get me wrong, he loves it and he enjoys what he does. But it's like, man, if I see him kind of getting frustrated, I'm like, come on, dude, let's take a break. Let's sit out for 10 minutes, have a drink. Because as soon as you kind of lose that with it, it becomes a chore, and I never want him to feel it's a chore.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, they do. I don't know if we mentioned this, but I know on the website it says that each pick takes you about 3 to 4 hours to make. So just for reference for anybody who's watching or listening, and like Jack said, they're not mass produced like the Fender picks that Ted has or the Pickboy Edges that I'm using. These are all handmade picks and absolutely worth every dollar that they cost, if not more, to be totally honest. And again, depending on the complexity, like the wood picks are a little bit more than the I'm going to use the term standard, but I don't mean it as a standard, but like
it's hard to describe those.
right. Like the average pick that you're making doesn't have all the layers necessarily that go into the wood picks where you have different materials happening there. And so I obviously, without knowing what goes into them, I'm just assuming that there's more work involved in them. And so, that's reflected in the cost as well. So, yeah, you're getting a one of a kind pick in every aspect of the pick. And it's certainly a time consuming thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, and a lot of the if I do one pick and it takes me 4 hours, the first probably 2.5 to 3 hours I can do a batch in that time. But it doesn't matter if I make one or if I make 10; it's all going to be in that same thing. But that is the hardest part. Once I get past that part with chemicals and that, and just like working on that. And a lot of people have messaged me about it and be like, oh, all you do is pour it and then do this and do that. I was like, no, I'm checking back on it every 10 minutes. I've sent videos to the artists because of what we do. What I do takes constant surveillance to make sure this turns out the way we want it. And it's just like, man, the amount of times I might walk away in the early days, I'd walk away and be like, oh, okay, I'll do this quickly. And then I look back and it's like ruined. I'm like, what can I do?
No. Oh,
So yeah,
learn by your mistakes in that sense.
Oh yeah, it's been hundreds of dollars down the drain from walking away. So
wow,
yeah, not fun.
No.
Well, I definitely, I don't know. I don't have any other questions. Kayla, do you have any other on your list?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything I had. Matt, did you have anything else that we didn't already cover? Or
no,
Jack,
I'm just in awe
else?
with all the stories, with all.
I know. I am so pumped. We got the behind the scenes. Exciting. Yeah, we got the behind the scenes look with these picks, and we're about to get them, and we'll have them probably in the next week or so. Hopefully, depending on the postal services. But no, definitely, really, really looking forward to them. I honestly think I have I got the coral, blue coral pick from a couple of weeks ago, and honestly, I think it might be one of the best picks that I've seen on your website, and so I'm super pumped that it's coming my way. To be fair, so yeah, no, I really look forward to getting it, trying it, playing it. As much as I don't want to play it, I will play it.
I'll play mine too. I'll play it. But I mean, listeners, ladies and gentlemen, just if you're listening to this episode and you're really intrigued with, really getting a visual for what we're talking about, go check out jakettopicks.com. You'll be just in awe of, what we're talking about. Literally, it's a piece of art. Just like what Ted said, it's a piece of art. I can't really explain further, so whether you're a musician or someone that just likes a lot of colors with a lot of design and a lot of creativity and imagery, this is an all-in-one package.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and for the audio listeners, Jaketto is JAKETTO, picks, PAKCS.com.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Glad you clarified, because I was going to spell it out for the listeners. But we will also put the link in the description of the show, along with the links to the Facebook and Instagram accounts too. And I highly recommend, if you think you might want to get one, that you follow Jaketto on Instagram, because as we mentioned, Jack puts up a countdown every day when there's new picks going on the website, so you'll know when they're going to get added, and you can kind of keep an eye on that. And that's kind of I've had many a night where I'm up at midnight, 1 a.m. and I pop onto Instagram and I see a new story and I'm like, ooh, there's new picks coming. And I'm like, what are they going to be today?
I know.
It's Christmas.
Every day.
That's right. So yeah, definitely give them a follow over on Instagram and on Facebook, and be sure to keep an eye on the stories with the countdowns if you're thinking you want to get one, because they are going really quickly. So if there's one that you see that you really like, you gotta be on it and get it when it's posted. So with that, thank you again, Jack. Is there anything else that you want to add that we didn't cover before we wrap up?
No, not really. I was waiting for the question of how did you get the name Jaketto?
I thought about that. Hey, sure. How did you get the name Jaketto?
Okay, so it's one of the most asked questions. Basically, Jaketto is a Japanese word for jacket, as in the clothing. Mm-hmm. My name is Jack Thompson. My whole life, I've basically been referred to either as Jackie or Jackie T. One of my friends one day wrote out Jackie T and read it as jacket. A friend that spoke a little bit of Japanese said Jaketto. I forgot about that story for 10 years until looking for a business name. And I'm like, okay, that'll do. It doesn't mean anything to me. So the kind of joke at the moment is I'm just glad I didn't end up with like monster truck pics or something like ridiculous like that. So I was
only
so
$5.
If you talk, yeah, that's it. So it's kind of this really cool thing where I was like, well, that name's only used in Japan to tell what a jacket is. So if you put Jaketto into Google, it's going to bring up our business. So that's what it is. The name actually didn't mean anything to me. It was just something I forgot about for a decade, and here we are.
That's pretty awesome, actually.
Perfect.
Any other great stories, by the way, before we...
Not at the moment. Maybe I'll have some after we go to Sydney next week.
All right.
Awesome.
I know I'm looking forward to hear check out the stories and hear. I know we communicate as Kayla, you communicate quite a bit, so I'm curious to hear via Kayla what the how the trip went and how much like snack food you bought at the gas station on the way there and back, because to me that's what a road trip really is.
Oh, I already know the answer. The answer's going to be too much. It's not going to be good.
That's the fun of
it. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jack, for taking the time to come on to the show with us today. It really has been a pleasure having you on, talking to you about the picks, getting to learn more. And again, for our audience, check out jakettopicks.com or head over to Facebook or Instagram and look for Jaketto Picks on there. And just a quick reminder for our audience that if you have an idea for a show topic, or if you'd like to be on a future show, reach out to us and let us know. And there's a few ways you can do that. You can head over to our Anchor page at anchor.fm/distortedopinions and leave us a voice message. You can also find links to our social media platforms, as well as a partial list of the places where the show is available in audio-only format. If you don't see us listed there, just search for Distorted Opinions on your favorite platform. And if you still can't find us, let us know.
Ask Alexa.
Ask Alexa. Alexa will find us somewhere. But if you have a preferred platform and we're not on there, let us know so that we can try and get the show on there. And you can also send us an email at distortedopinionshow@gmail.com. And almost on cue, I got an email notification here just now because I didn't mute my phone and it dinged.
Someone sent us a message immediately? That's so impressive.
Perhaps. So yeah, a few ways to get a hold of us if you want to reach out. And with that, thank you again, Jack.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Much appreciated.
No,
thank you for coming
very,
on.
very welcome.
Looking forward to seeing what you have coming up in the next few months here. I'm really excited to see those new wood picks.
Oh, look, my wallet.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you to our audience for tuning in. We'll see you next week with a whole new episode. Guys.
See ya.